Шановні колеги, ми продовжуємо роботу. До слова.
Now the floor is given to Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesman on ATO-related issues, Colonel Oleksandr Motuzyanyk.
Доброго дня всім.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now the information about the events that happened in the ATO area during the last 24 hours. During the first part of the day yesterday, there was significant de-escalation observed along the line of conflict. And then the situation deteriorated. The enemy actively used heavy weapons. Now, information in more detail. In the Lugansk area, the activity of the militants increased. At the same time, all violations of ceasefire were with the use of small arms. In Stanitsa Luganska and Lobachevo, enemy snipers were active, and also illegal armed groups opened fire at the positions of Ukrainian armed forces in Novozvanivka and Oleksandrovka, and in other areas of Lugansk area it was calm. And on the whole, during the last 24 hours, there were 10 enemy shellings in Lugansk area. The Donetsk area, here the enemy delivered fire at positions along the line of conflict. In Svetlodarsk, Balch, and Avdiivka industrial area and in its flanks, Kamenka and Shakhta-Butovka position, the enemy, as previously, uses mortars. And in each of these regions, it launched several dozens of mines. And in near Avdiivka, they changed the tactics. They decreased mortar shelling and increased the activity of snipers. And also there was heavy shelling in Kamenka. The shelling lasted 7 hours. And in the Donetsk area during the last 24 hours there were 32 enemy shelling, including 11 with the use of heavy weapons. The Mariupol area, yesterday there was heavy mortar shelling delivered by the enemy, and also the enemy used APC's weaponry. In Starognatovka and in south coastline area, the enemy used the small arms, grenade launchers, and armored vehicles, weaponry, and enemy snipers are active. On the whole, there were 32 enemy shelling in the Mariupol area, including 1 with the use of mortars. Now, the briefing about the military activities that happened today on the 21st of February. As of 11 hours today, in the region of ATO, there were 21 enemy shelling, and in 2 cases, the enemy used mortars. The majority are in the Mariupol area, so there is a trend to de-escalation. During the last 24 hours, as a result of the military actions, 2 Ukrainian servicemen were wounded. It happened in the course of enemy shelling of Shakhta-Butovka position, and 7 servicemen also were wounded because they tripped an unknown explosive device. It happened in the region of Lebedinsk. Also, we informed that in hospital, an officer of State Emergency Service died. He was heavily wounded in Avdiivka on the 2nd of February. Our hearts go out to the relatives of this man. And Ukrainian intelligence service informed that 3 militants from so-called 9th Regiment of Russian occupation forces blew up on while establishing mine barriers and were heavily wounded and died. And the servicemen of the National Guard detained in Navaydar a man who was suspected as a militant. And while checking the car checkpoint, they saw some corrections in his passport. Then police came and verified the data through special base, and he was detained. And yesterday in Old Avdiivka, police officers found Russian air drone. It wasn't brought down, it fell because of some technical failure. Now this drone is handed into SBU and they will study its characteristics and information from memory card. Thank you. This is all. Do you have questions? Thank you, Colonel. Do you have questions? No questions. This is the end of press briefing. Thank you. Dear colleagues, our next event is at 1 p.m.